Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. And we'll do some emails for you today on what is a little warmer day than we've had. We might actually get above the freezing mark for the first time in about 3 weeks. So that'll be nice. Maybe some of the snow will melt. It's been obviously a long winter in the Northeast and anywhere where it's cold. So spring will be a welcome sight once it gets here, but it doesn't usually get here until about May 1st. Now, remember, sign up for the Mike Francesa newsletter for your chance to enter the February newsletter contest. Win a personalized message from me or a prize pack. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, go to MikeFrancesa'Podcast.com and do so. And remember, it's absolutely free. All right, as we make that transition, the NFL shuts down now to March. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of time. It basically is in the news all year because there's even going to be speculation in the next couple of weeks. It's already February the 10th. The season opens in a month with free agency, and free agency is fast and furious in the NFL. So we're a month away from that. Now, Paul starts us off. Given that the Giants' road opponents combined for a daunting record, it is clear that a last place finish doesn't guarantee an easy path. Should the NFL revise that? No, listen. There's going to be a couple of games that favor your record. Whether your record's good, you get X. Your record's bad, you get Y. But for the most part, you're talking about, with a couple of exceptions, you're talking about the same record for the division teams, which is what it should, the same schedule for the division teams, which is what you're looking for. The idea in the NFL is to win your division. That's the goal. That's the key to the promised land. Win your division. Every year, any coach worth anything is motivated by what he has to do to improve his squad against the three teams in his division. That is it. You've already heard Harbaugh say that every move we make is to beat the Eagles. They're the team to beat in our division. Everything we do is to improve and to beat the Eagles. That's how he is doing this. It's about your division. You're not thinking about Super Bowls. You're not thinking about playoff possibilities and home field. Hey, if you're a team that went, had 13 wins this year, you're thinking, I want to get home field and get the number one seed. That's different. You are on a certain level. But with that exception, the idea is to play and compete inside that 4-team league. That's it. And most things there are equal, so that's the way it should be done. That's the way it is done. So I have no problem with the schedule, and hey, the schedule last year for the Giants was brutal. I told you. It also matters when the games line up, how the games line up. Do you get a respite? Do you get off to an early start? I am a big believer in early starts. I believe that 0-3 starts kill teams. I believe that 3-0 starts lift teams. So I think how you get out of the gate is imperative, and how your schedule shapes up. And listen, schedule is an enormous factor. When your team's reeling and you got an easy game, it makes all the difference in the world. It really does. John, do you feel comfortable that Nagy and Roman can develop Jaxson Dart? Well, we don't know the quarterback coach yet, so we're waiting for him. But Nagy's the offensive coordinator, and Roman is the running game coach and kind of a old hand at looking over everything on the offense. But remember this, he is a terrific run game manager. His teams are highly productive in the run game year after year after year. Now, I believe that, let me put it this way. I have no concern for the Giants quarterback room. I think it's a comfortable room for Dart. I think it's a good learning room for Dart. I'm not concerned with the development of Dart or the game planning. I'm not worried about practice schedules. I'm not worried about game development. I'm not worried about game planning. I am concerned with this group of people and the play calling. I will have a very keen eye to the play calling. I think the play calling is going to be very telling, and I'm not overly comfortable with the play calling or what the play calling will produce. I have no other problems with the offense as far as the quarterback goes. Now, big key, what are they gonna get out of the offensive line? What are they gonna get out of the offensive line coach? That offensive line has to continue its development. That is the key. That is the key. What do you think the Patriots gonna work on? They're gonna work on their offense. They can tell everybody how May was hurt and everything, but the bottom line is gotta work on their offensive line. It fell apart in the playoffs. It got destroyed in the playoffs. And when you go into these big games and one team has a huge edge in pass rush over the other team and the other team can't protect its quarterback, game's over. Mike, do you think the Jets hiring of Frank Reich as offensive coordinator was a good move? Yes. Now, the Jets' ability to operate right now, what kind of staff this is going to be, what the dynamics and the chemistry of that staff is going to be, how Aaron's gonna run this staff. Is Frank gonna be given complete leeway with the offense? Are there gonna be other hands in the offense? We don't know who the quarterback is. We don't have any idea about that yet. Glenn's gonna be highly, highly locked up with the defense because he's gotta call plays this year. Um, they're a mess. Let's be honest, but I do think Reich is a professional. I think he's a step in the right direction. I do not believe, like a lot of people, that he's gonna wind up being the coach. He might be the interim coach if Glenn leaves, something gets crazy and Glenn walks out in a huff or, they fire him, in the midseason, which never works anyway, but I don't think Reich's gonna be the head coach. I think he's do I think he's a good coordinator? I do. I think he's a good offensive mind. James, with a potential lockout next year, could this be Judge's last year of his prime this year? Well, he'll be 34 in April. I'd say he's got 3 years left at the top. I don't think even if you're forecasting Armageddon, I don't think you're talking about 3 years. This year, obviously, is a prime year, and then I think he's got 2 left. Could he lose one? He could sacrifice it, and it'll be very bitter for him if he does, especially if he hasn't won a championship yet. And taking that year, taking a 45, 50 home run year out of the middle of his career could cost him 500 home runs. Could cost him, 600 home runs. Could cost him some statistics. Now he's going to the Hall of Fame on roller skates. We know that. But the point is, he's got he's a 294 hit a lifetime. In this day and age, that's very good. He's got a 400 on base percentage. He's just broken 1.0 with the career OPS, which is, that's legendary. He's got 870 something runs scored. He's got 830 RBIs. He's got 368 homers. I know this because I was looking the other day to see what his numbers were going to be. Somebody had asked me what his numbers were going to be for his career, and I said I thought he would hit 500 home runs, but I didn't think he'd ever get near 600 home runs. He's had a storied career, but he hasn't won. And that's partially on him, but not obviously all on him by any stretch. Brian, how does Sam Darnold winning a Super Bowl in Seattle impact Russell Wilson's legacy? I don't think it affects it at all. Russell Wilson had his career in Seattle. He did what he did. Now, Wilson hurt his career with his play the last couple of years. If he had retired 3 years ago, he had a much tidier and a much better looking career than he has now. But he's accomplished what he's accomplished. And whatever he did means nothing now to Sam. Sam now has his ring. It reminds me of when the Giants won in Pasadena. You've probably seen the video many times. of Parcells saying to the team, "Guys," I think he said, "Fellas, no one can ever say that you didn't do it. They can never basically take this away from you." And it's true. You know, players are motivated by 2 things in the NFL, in all sports. They want 2 things. They want a championship ring to wear, and when they get the money, they want the ring. When they get the ring, they want the money. They want the life-changing career money. I'm talking about the guys who are good, really good players. Uh, they want the life-changing career money, and they want the ring. And the later they get in their career, the more they're motivated by which one they don't have. If they have the money, they want the ring. If they have the ring, they want the money. Players obviously will work towards multiple Super Bowls given what happens in a given season. But once they can walk around with that ring on for the rest of their life at every NFL event, nobody can ever take it away. And listen, I know Sam, who had a brilliant championship Sunday against the Rams. And if he doesn't have a great game against the Rams, they lose. He won that game. He was a bystander in this game. He was along for the ride. So what? There were Super Bowls where Brady was along for the ride. There were Super Bowls where Bradshaw was along for the ride. Roethlisberger was along for the ride. I can give you more and more and more. Means nothing. Means absolutely nothing. He's got his ring, and he'll go for more. But be careful, Seattle. Seattle's got a lot of money issues this year, a lot. And after you win it, tough to keep everybody happy and everything together. Very, very tough. Everybody wants to get paid. Um, Jason, are you excited at all about the World Baseball Classic this year? It's a setup question. You know, there's no way, if you know anything about me, you know there's no chance that I have any interest in that. And you know that I have stated on numerous occasions, I would forbid players who I thought had any risk of injury. If I have a young player, he wants to go play in it, and he's been asked because he's talented, go play. If you're an older player and you've had injuries, you're not playing. If eh, the bottom line is, it's not happening. I really don't want my players participating, and I'd be very, very much against them participating, and I, have no interest in it at all. I don't care about this stuff. This stuff is done to market the sport internationally and to somehow bring some interest to the sport from a television standpoint in a time frame. Remember, this time of the year, there is not a lot on. So until you get to the playoffs with hockey, you got 3 weeks of the NCAA tournament, and then you have the Masters, but you have once you get to April and you get the hockey every night, and you get the basketball every night, that takes you into June. But early in the spring, there's nothing on, so they need TV, and they wanna draw attention. For the most part, spring training, everyone glorifies it, and if you're here in the winter and you've been in this slush and frozen tundra for a couple of months, the fact that you're sitting at a ball game in Port St. Lucie or Tampa, watching your team and basking on a 75-degree day in the sunshine, you know what? That feels nice. Any day in Florida feels nice when it's 75 degrees, okay? Even Florida was hit hard because I was there when it never approached 70 for, 10 days, and actually after I left, it was down in the 30s. Um, but the best weather of the year in Florida, in my estimation, always is between the 15th of February and April 1st. That's the best weather. Now it's windy, but Florida's always windy, um, in this time of year, but it's great weather, day in, day out. 80 degrees, sunshine, little breeze, sometimes a lot of breeze, but it's really good weather. But So spring training is dynamic for that, but for the most part, spring training is tedious. You go to a game, there's 2 players in the game. Alright, you wanna see a young guy, fine. You're gonna be a lot of people you don't even know who they are. You're gonna have 2 regulars or 3 regulars in the lineup, and they're gone after the 5th inning. The games are okay. You wanna go down and watch the drills? Go ahead. Well, you're gonna watch drills for 1 day, then you're gonna be bored. Let's be honest. That's all there is to it. How many times can you watch a guy hit the ball in the cage or have a drill on the infield? Okay, you can watch it for an hour or 2, but you're not gonna watch it for every day. Um, so spring training is overrated from that standpoint, but when you add the weather and you get out of the cold, man, it's got a little romance to it. Dylan, what chances do you give the Knicks of actually winning a championship this season? I give them a I give them a 30% chance to get to the finals. I give them a maybe even maybe I'll go 40. I won't go 50, but I'll go 40 maybe to get to the finals. I give them 5% chance of winning it. You never know. Sometimes the series tighten up. Look at last year. Uh, Teams can get injured. Always an issue, especially in this day and age in the NFL. I think from that standpoint, you want to go to the finals just to be there. But also, you never know. You have a puncher's chance that things can break right. And the Knicks are a little unique in that regard, in that they're a little different. They can have games where they can be hard to stop. Um, the last question asked me which team I would put as the favorite for next year's championship in the NFL. Who would I make the Super Bowl winner next year? Or the favorite to be the Super Bowl winner next year? Most places will install the defending champion unless they have, guys retiring, prominent guys retiring, coaches retiring, something like that. Without that, so Seattle is the favorite, and that's not unusual. I would make the Rams the favorite. With Stafford, of course, back, he's already stated that. Um, they wouldn't be the favorite otherwise. Also, they know what the issue was. They have to, without question, completely revitalize and turn over and change their special teams. Their special teams was a big part of 4 different losses, including the championship game. They were completely plagued by every malady you could have in special teams. He fired his special teams coach. He changed his kicker. The bottom line was special teams haunted them all year. And I guarantee you, in this offseason, all he's going to have on his mind is putting together the best special teams that he possibly can. He's going to be working on it in camp. He's going to be putting it in there'll be extra sessions. There'll be extra top parts of the practice schedule where they do that. And remember, training camp is a joke now. If I were an NFL head coach, I'd say, you know what? Leave me alone. I'll make my own rules because it's a joke. It really is. Uh, they don't let these guys put these guys on the field for any length of time. And they need it, to be honest with you. But I would make the Rams the favorite. I would make Seattle the second favorite. I would make Buffalo the third favorite. The big issue is how far did the Eagles fall with all their issues? And the bigger issue is where do you put Kansas City? I think they put them down around 18-1. I'd put them at like 30-1. I don't think they'll come back next year. I don't think they'll make the playoffs next year. I think that's too much to ask, and like I said, how they approach this next chapter, especially this year. See, I already think I've heard that they're gonna bring back some guys for one more go. I don't think those guys have enough left. Would I bring Kelsey back? I would not. I would not. I know they're bringing him back at a reduced dollar, talking about $8 million. I wouldn't bring him back. I'd go get a tight end. Listen, they've had some great players who have produced multiple championships for them, and obviously led by an all-time quarterback and an all-time head coach, but they need to turn the page. And if they try to do this with a I made a big statement about this during the season at one point. They try to do this with a Band-Aid, they will never get there again. If they would take their medicine, which would mean gutting the team in some spots and rebuilding it from the ground up, which will probably cost them next year, where they probably go 7-9. And that's if Mahomes healthy goes 7-9. But it would set the foundation for them where they could, within 2 years, be back to being a team that has playmakers and youth and blocks that they can use as a foundation instead of trying to piecemeal it and put Band-Aids on it. It will not work. They're too old for that. See, when you have the kind of success that they had, 9 straight division title wins, every year in the AFC title game, 5 times in the Super Bowl. The bottom line is you get old at a lot of spots. You're drafting low every year. Players want to get paid. You feel every injury. You feel every suspension. You feel everything because you don't have that depth. It is being deteriorated by the fact of what you have to pay players and by holding on to players too long. Everybody does it. Chuck Noll, I remember he made the statement. Tom Landry made the same statement. I stayed too long with the players that I won with. Chuck Noll said, if I could do it again, I would not be sentimental. I had trouble getting rid of the players who won 4 titles for him in 6 years. Well, it's hard to get rid of those guys. And a handful of them, I think 7 or 8 were Hall of Famers. He had great players. And you can hold them too long. It's hard to say goodbye to those faces. But if you aren't cold and calculating, and if you don't lack sentimentality, you will not get back to the promised land. It takes all that to win. Without any question, it takes all that to win. A couple of thoughts about college basketball. Number one, St. John's won last night. You knew 2 things. Number one, whether he doesn't put the pedal to the metal against his son, or his son does have unique offensive players who cause St. John's trouble. Xavier should have beaten St. John's at least once and could have beaten them twice. They lost both games. Last night, obviously, on the foul line. You knew St. John's was going to be down after the Friday night game. The Friday night game was an emotional, intense game for the regular season I'd seen in a long time. Plus, it was a huge St. John's crowd in the Garden. I was there. Jack and I went, and it was a great night at the Garden, no question. But you knew they would be down. And I thought the line last night was absurd, 16.5 points. You knew that they'd had trouble winning that game. I was fascinated by the Kansas game. I thought Kansas, which never loses and had never lost for Bill Self on Big Monday, and that's the hardest building to play in. Not anywhere in the ACC, not Cameron. No, the hardest place to play in America in college basketball is in Allen Fieldhouse at Kansas. Always has been, always will be. Now, Arizona goes in undefeated. I thought Arizona would lose last night. And then I sit down to watch the game. And I hadn't paid attention before. There wasn't a lot on before that. I was watching the St. John game. They never mentioned it. Now their big stud's not playing. Now we know he sat out a million games this year, and what he pulled last night, Peterson, if you listen to NBA scouts are telling you that this guy is about as defined a package as we have had come out of the draft in the last 10 or 15 years. But he never plays. And then last night, he's got flu-like symptoms. They are home against an undefeated Arizona team on national television, and he warms up and he's not gonna play, and there was a rumor, now Kansas denied this because it doesn't make them look good, that Self told him somebody said they overheard this. Now again, whether it happened or not, I don't care. It should have been the message that Self said to his star, "Listen, if you're gonna give me 50% effort, sit out." And he said, "I'm out." And then the team went out and beat them. Then Kansas went out and beat them without him, which was a huge win for Kansas, a huge win for their head coach, and a real shot in the face at their star. There's nobody in the world who is going to doubt the talent this player has. But if you have the first pick, aren't you scared to death to draft him? He never plays. The rumors are a coach told me the agent's the problem. Now, why the agent wants to sit him out of all these games when he plays, he's tremendous. When he beat Texas Tech with 2 threes, he outplayed the BYU phenom badly, and then sat out the second half. He scored 18 points in the first half against BYU. He outplayed the kid by a mile, and then sat out the second half. In the NCAA tournament, I don't know if this guy's going to play one game, play the next game, play a half, play a minute. I have no idea. I don't think they do either. It's become a real pain in the neck, but they overcame it last night and maybe sent the big star a message. We haven't had a situation like this in a long time. I mean, somebody said, and they're right, he's brought load management to college. I mean, he really has. He never plays. But it was a great win. Now the only undefeated team is Miami of Ohio. Now, here's an interesting thing. That league doesn't produce at-large teams. It's a one-and-done league. They're undefeated. No team has ever gotten an at-large bid when it did not acquire one game. They don't have any of those on their schedule, which means if they don't win their tournament and they just have one loss, let's say they run the table and they lose in their conference tournament. Does Miami of Ohio make the tournament with one loss? They're ranked right now. They're undefeated, which is impressive no matter who you play. I don't care if you're playing, tiddlywinks. The bottom line is you're undefeated, you're undefeated. But they haven't played anybody. They have no quality wins. They didn't play any quality teams. I mean, not to knock the talent in their league, but I mean, they haven't played any, even in non-league, they didn't play any big games. Most teams play a few for the money and for the ability to just climb up socially and, on the ladder to try and get it into the tournament if you can, win those games. They haven't played any. And they are undefeated. But do they have to go undefeated to win? Do they have to go undefeated and win the conference championship to get into the NCAA tournament? Fascinating. That'll be a storyline if they ever lose in the conference tournament. Now, if they've lost more than one, then they're not getting in out of that league. That's all there is to it. But they have not lost at all. And now Arizona, which had gone 23 games without a loss, has lost. And Arizona's really good. I mean, they're really good. They got size, a lot of size, and talent on the outside, really good freshman players. I mean, so they're a talented team. I'll tell you, this year, if you're someone who likes the tournament And I understand the regular season in college baseball has no value. I agree with that, unless you're a fanatic and love the sport because, you know, everybody who's any good is gonna make the NCAA tournament. I mean, UConn, St. John's, Villanova, they're all going to the NCAA tournament. We know that now. We can name pretty much all the teams that are going to the NCAA tournament within 1 or 2 right now. But this year, it is loaded. There are more teams this year that I think could win a championship than I've seen in a long, long time. Arizona's been good. Michigan's been ultra impressive, especially when their point guard has his head-ons right. Um, Illinois, very impressive. Houston, again, very impressive. Should have been a champion last year. Florida coming on. Duke, really good. Lost to Carolina tonight, but hey, loaded with Boozer, okay? Some great freshman players. Really good teams. Very talented. Iowa State's got a great team. UConn and St. John's and St. John's is getting better and better. I have to admit that now, as we get later into the season, I did not see Darling taking a commanding role, but he did such a good job in the UConn game, forcing DeMar into mistakes and gutting. He's such a gutty player, even though he's not a great player by any stretch, but he's a gutty player. He's become a big factor now. So you pretty much have, as Jaxson becomes less of a factor, he's always in the doghouse. He might have a good game here and there, but he's always in the doghouse. It's the 3 forwards and Sellers and now Darling as the main core. Play around that. And they could have a bad night. We know that, but this team, they could be a handful. I'll tell you something, if you don't have now, they're gonna have to watch how the game's called in the NCAA tournament because Big East teams sometimes can struggle with that, but you get a very tight whistle. But if you can't handle their press, you're in big trouble. They'll wear you down with it. If you can't handle their size, 3 big guys attacking play after play after play, banging the rim, playing defense, banging the boards, scoring inside, taking it to the basket. That's a lot for a lot of teams. And as Danny said the other night after the game, those guys are men, all 3 of them, and they are. And Mitchell, boy, if he could shoot, I understand. That's why players aren't All-Americans because they have deficiencies, and he can't shoot a lick. And some games he can't finish, like I think last night he was like 2 for 13. But the rest of his game is so good. His rebounding, his defense, his ability to guard multiple positions, his open floor passing. I mean, all exquisite. His ability to go to the hole, although he doesn't finish well and he doesn't make free throws. But he has energized that team in a very big way. And Doobie, hey, does his job. I'll be very interested in the rematch to see if they can hold their own in that game against UConn. Or is UConn going to give them the back of their hand? I'll be fascinated by that. That's the 25th. Up in Connecticut, the 25th of February. We'll see you later.